How's it going, folks? Welcome back to Water Cooler Quarterback, where we act like we know things about football. My name is Andrew, and Week 4 is officially underway with Thursday Night Football already being played. And what a win for the Lions that was, now sitting atop the NFC North.
Hey there, folks. This is Future Andrew coming to you through the power of editing. Just want to acknowledge that the audio is super weird in this video. I did figure out why that is, and it shouldn't be a problem in the future, so just for this video, we're just going to have to deal with it. Thanks for bearing with me. Now let's get back to it.
Of course, we've also got to take a look at how the Water Cooler Quarterback Pick Em League is going. We've got Football Americano in first place with Donzi Lee and Gridiron Warriors not too far behind. I continue to claw my way back into things as I am now tied for fourth with Keo and Addy. Remember, you are free to join the league whenever you want, but the more games that go by, the less likely that you are to catch up to everybody else, so join as soon as you can. But there's still a whole bunch of games to talk about this Sunday and Monday, so let's go ahead and get into the Week 4 slate of games. Before we get started, we're going to try something a little bit different with this pick'em video. Rather than talking about every single game, we're going to go a little more in depth with just a few of them, and then at the end of the episode, rapid fire through all the ones that we didn't get to talk about. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at a few of these games. For those of you that like waking up bright and early, you'll be happy to know that we've got an early morning game starting at 6:30 a.m. Pacific time. I personally don't like getting up at 6 in the morning on my weekend, so will I be watching this game? Of course I will. Are you kidding? The game in question is, of course, the Atlanta Falcons taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars over in London. Now, the Jags have historically done pretty well over in jolly old England, but so has Kyle Pitts and the Atlanta Falcons. And on top of that, the Falcons literally have a guy named London on their team, so there's all kinds of arbitrary reasons to pick either of these teams. Last week, the Falcons got absolutely pantsed by the Detroit Lions, and the Jags were on the wrong end of an upset to the Houston Texans, so neither team is exactly in their stride right now. I will say this though, the Falcons have been chugging along nicely up until last week. Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier have been effective in the run game, and their defense has been really good as well. They had one bad game against a good Detroit Lions team, and I think should be able to find their footing again relatively quickly. Because after all, they play pretty simple football. They run the ball well and they play good defense. That shouldn't be too tough to recapture. Meanwhile, the Jaguars have had 2 bad games in a row. Their loss to Kansas City does sound like well, yeah, what do you expect? It's the Chiefs, but they actually could have won that game relatively easily. They just failed to capitalize on any of their opportunities. And last week against the Texans, Jacksonville was shut out in the first half. A rookie getting his 3rd start played better than Trevor Lawrence, and the team as a whole just did not look great. Now heading into an unfamiliar environment, I'm worried that the Jags are going to continue to struggle. They need a get-right game, a game where they can get back to what works and recapture their identity. And unfortunately, they're getting the exact opposite of that. They're going to be way out of their routine as they get flung halfway across the world to go play in England. And I'm sorry, but I just don't think that's going to go well for them. So I do have the Falcons winning this game in front of thousands of screaming British football fans. Not their football, our football. You know what I mean. Now we're actually going to talk about 2 games at the same time because both of these games have got something rather interesting going on. Both games are between winless 0-3 teams. The Broncos visiting the Bears and the Vikings headed to Carolina to take on the Panthers may be 2 of the saddest matchups I've seen in a long time. I joke about the who sucks less type of thing every once in a while, but in this case, it's actually kind of true. I mean, take the Bears and Broncos, for instance. These 2 teams gave up a combined 111 points just last week. And while the Panthers did look better with Andy Dalton at quarterback, I mean, this team is just not going anywhere fast. The Vikings are probably looking at these matchups and saying, we're not with them. But the fact is, they are 0-3 as well. So to cover these games very briefly, I do have the Broncos beating the Bears because as dysfunctional as the Broncos are right now, it is nothing compared to the absolute mess that the Chicago Bears are. And I do have the Vikings beating the Panthers because I do think that the Vikings are the best winless team in the league right now. Now that's not saying a whole lot, but when you have the league's leading passer and the league's best receiver, you should be better than 0-3. Unfortunately, whoever wins these games is likely just hurting themselves in the long run because This weekend of games could play a huge factor in determining the draft order come next spring. I don't think any of these teams are going to be making the playoffs after this rough start, and yeah, these games are just big yikes all around. Now to talk about a game that should actually be good, we have got the Ravens visiting the Cleveland Browns. Two 2-1 teams battling it out for the lead in the AFC North. What is better than that? The Ravens are severely injured as usual. OBJ, Rashad Bateman, and Kyle Hamilton are just a few of the names that are not practicing this week. J.K. Dobbins is of course out for the season yet again, and it seems like this perpetually injured Ravens team just can never catch a break. Meanwhile, Deshaun Watson is starting to look really good again, and that is scary for this division because the rest of the Browns team has just been waiting for him to return to form. The Browns currently have the best defense in the league. They've given up only 491 yards through 3 weeks. They've also held teams to an average of 11 points a game. And a lot of that is because Myles Garrett is playing out of his mind this year. The Tennessee Titans had 2 tight ends just shadowing Myles Garrett, going to whatever side he was on in an effort to block him. And when he just kept moving around from left to right and they kept switching sides on the line, it ended up causing a delay of game penalty. Myles Garrett literally caused a 5-yard loss without the ball being snapped. The Browns wide receivers, Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, Donovan Peoples-Jones, is a solid group of pass catchers. And David Njoku is always a threat at tight end. And even though they've lost Nick Chubb for the season, Jerome Ford has seemingly stepped into that role very well. Cleveland is one of the sneaky best teams in the AFC right now, and I think looks poised to take the division. So I'm going to pick the Browns to win this one and improve to 3-1 on the season. Oh shoot, now we've got the Miami Dolphins heading up north to Western New York to take on the Buffalo Bills in what is likely to be the game of the week. This should be on primetime. Hey, can we get this game flexed to primetime and get the Jets the heck out of here, please? This game will undoubtedly be the toughest matchup the Dolphins have had all season. In week 1, the Dolphins headed to LA to take on a Chargers team that put up an offensive fight. It was an airborne shootout and Miami came out on top. In week 2, they ran into a very tough New England defense and had to shake up the game plan a bit. So they ended up running the ball like crazy and ended up winning another important game on the road. Then, of course, last week they embarrassed a Denver team that was simply unprepared for the matchup. Now in week 4, though, they go up against a Bills team that has got a great offense like the Chargers, a great defense like the Patriots, and will surely be prepared for this all-out fight. This is like the final boss of a video game, and I know it's only week 4, but the Dolphins have shown different ways of finding success throughout each game this season, and now they're going to have to beat the best version of each of their opponents all at once. Josh Allen's Bills are currently the second best offense in the league, second only to Tua's Dolphins. Their defense has only allowed 35 points so far this season, which is also second best in the league. And despite their weird Week 1 performance, the Bills have looked like the dominant force that we've all come to expect from them over the last couple of years. This game is going to be quite the test for both teams, and whoever wins is going to be making a statement. Either the Bills are going to be taking down the undefeated Dolphins, or Miami is going to be taking a commanding lead in the AFC East by stomping down the Bills. This game is being played in Buffalo, but thankfully for Miami, they're getting this road game out of the way before the weather turns. So I don't think that home field advantage is going to be as impactful as it would have been if this game were being played later in the year. And while the Dolphins are the betting underdogs on the road going into this game, I think the team that just dropped 70 last weekend is going to come out with the win. All right, do we think the Cardinals have got another game like that in them? Because they're going to need it. Look, I could sit here and say that the Cardinals are going to get smoked by one of the league's best offenses. And I could sit here and say that the Cardinals are going to get stomped by one of the league's best defenses. I could do that. But you can find that same old take anywhere. I guarantee you go look all over YouTube. You go look at who the Fox Sports guys are picking. I guarantee everybody is taking the Niners in this one. But after last week, I'm not so sure. And I know I just went Rich Eisen higher register there, but I think this is possible for the Cards. Because the Cardinals are a chippy team. They're scrappy. Do they have the same talent as everybody else? Not necessarily, but do they have enough to keep these games competitive? Yeah. No one gave them a shot last week, and they came out and beat the Cowboys. So while I don't think it's likely, I'm picking the Cardinals. I'm going to ride or die with this team because they have shown some promise. And I feel like I owe Josh Dobbs an apology. I may have been a little critical of him because now he's got more time with his team, he's learning the playbook better, and he's doing about as well as anybody could in his position. Also, he's just really funny and fun to root for. Can we get this man a jersey in the pro shop, please? For goodness sakes. I think Josh Dobbs will serve as a great backup to Kyler once K1 does inevitably return. And that's because they play a relatively similar game, something that couldn't be said for Kyler and Colt McCoy last year. I'm incredibly impressed with these Cardinals, and while I do think that San Francisco is the better team, I'm picking the Cardinals out of sheer love for this group of guys. Plus, it's a divisional game, and those always get weird, you never know. And now it's time for the first installment of Quick Picks, the rapid fire segment where we predict the rest of the games in one sentence or less. And it's gonna get fast up in here, so try and keep up. Bengals at Titans. Both of these teams have sucked to start the year, but I'll take an injured Joe Burrow over a healthy Ryan Tannehill any day of the week. Rams at Colts. If Anthony Richardson is playing, this will be a game, but if the Rams O-line can keep Matthew Stafford upright, I've got the Rams taking this one. Buccaneers at Saints. Marshawn Lattimore owns the Bucs, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see another fight with Mike Evans this year. Commanders at Eagles. Jalen Hurts just had the flu and still won the game, so look out, Washington. Steelers at Texans. Well, the Steelers' offense is like watching paint dry, but their defense should be good enough to get the job done, even though CJ Stroud has been playing really good this year. Raiders at Chargers. The entire Raiders organization is in absolute shambles right now, both on and off the field, and Justin Herbert is playing some unbelievable ball right now. Patriots at Cowboys. Bill Belichick is going to have his way with this Dallas offense that has yet to get going, but I think Dallas's defense is going to be a nightmare for Mac Jones, especially after last week's upset. Chiefs at Jets. NBC is really missing Aaron Rodgers right now. Seahawks at Giants. We'll see if Daniel Jones decides to show up for a full game. Otherwise, the Seahawks take this with ease. Well, that is going to do it for the very first Quick Picks segment and the Week 4 Pick'em video. Be sure to let me know down in the comments if you enjoyed the rapid fire segment. I kind of like coming up with just one sentence answers for each of these games, so I had a lot of fun with it. I hope you did too. As always, be sure to like this video and subscribe because we ain't slowing down one bit. My name is Andrew, this is Water Cooler Quarterback, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.